Okay, well, it's great to be here. I haven't been here since 1999, since the total solar eclipse, when I was doing my PhD. And we went to Varna. We flew into Sofia, rented a car, and I drove up to Varna as a PhD student. And I'd only been driving for 6 months on the other side of the road. So it was a great experience to come to Varna. We got some nice data and wrote a paper. So I have a publication from some of our work done here in Bulgaria. So it's great to be back here again to tell you about another project. Just about 20 minutes ago I was listening very intently to René's talk, but I actually set up the Irish LOFAR telescope to run from Sofia today. So this is me. Where's the pointer? This is me logging into LOFAR. So here's the Sofia Tech Park, logging into the Linux gateway computer in Birr, County Offaly in Ireland, then logging into the local control computer, which is the container with all the equipment in it, and then having a look at the software level to see what's going on in the LOFAR station in Ireland. And I then went and ran a couple of commands, and we will be observing the sun from sunrise in Ireland. So this is probably the first time a LOFAR station has been run from here. I was going to do it live, but I'm not that stupid or brave. I'm not sure which is the answer. Okay, so let me tell you about I-LOFAR. And I was thinking there's lots of parallels between where you are and where we were 10 years ago. We've 6 million people on the island, just over 6 million. You've, I think, about 7 million here. Dublin is just over 1 million. Sofia is just over 1 million. So we probably have comparable sized astronomical communities and so on. And so we had to fight a long battle to get this LOFAR station and join the ILT. And I guess this is the story of some of the major battles and how we won the war in the end. The Irish community is about 80 staff students and PhD students spread out among about 6 universities and the institute that I'm at called the Dublin Institute for Advanced Studies. We have been working with the European Space Agency primarily since the 1975, so we've been in there for a long time. But we only joined ILT in 2017, the International LOFAR Telescope, and embarrassingly, we only joined the European Southern Observatory this year, which is at last. But there's been a lot of developments in basic research in astronomy in Ireland in the past number of years. The research that's done there spans a small community, but very disparate research interests from cosmology, galaxy evolution, stellar astrophysics, and then through to my own area, which is solar physics. So for us, LOFAR was an interesting facility in that it served many, many different research interests. And there was nobody interested in low-frequency astronomy, so there was a bit of a ramp-up there for many of us. And that's probably what will be confronted by you as well. But it's been a very fruitful collaboration with Astron, the people who run the LOFAR telescope, and we've learned a lot along the way, and the papers are now coming out. In order to do this, we formed a consortium of the major universities in both Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. So both of us came together. It became a cross-border project. And in order to get the project funded, we all needed to chip in a little bit of cash. And then when we had that little bit of cash, we then went to the government. So the cash was basically the university saying, we want this, we value it, and then the government came in to match that ambition. At the centre of the island, you'll see there's a place called Birr, and this is where our LOFAR station is. And one of the reasons it is there is because most people in Ireland live on the coast. And so that's where the radio frequency interference is, and this is where there aren't very many people. There was also a free field here, so that helped a lot as well. But I'd encourage you to, when you are looking at your station, of course, your RFI is an important thing, and if you can find a free field, even better. Birr has a great tradition in astronomy going back to the mid-1800s. This gentleman here was called Lord Rosse, the Earl of Rosse, and he built this great telescope in the 1840s. It's still there, you can go and see it. It has a 1.8 meter diameter mirror at the bottom of it, a 16 meter long tube that he first spotted the Whirlpool Galaxy. And he named it the Whirlpool Galaxy because it looked like a whirlpool in the river that flows through beside his castle. And that's one of his drawings from about 1845 of the whirlpool showing the spiral arms. So he's the first person to see spiral arms in a galaxy. And you know, if you compare it to what you see nowadays, he wasn't doing, excuse me, I should be over here. He wasn't doing too badly at all to resolve some structure. So there was a tradition of astronomy there. The current owner of the castle then said, I'd like to reignite astronomy in the area, and that's one of the reasons that we got the land. The hard bit was the money at the time, and we were looking for money during the financial crash, and Ireland was hit particularly badly during the financial crash. Unemployment went up by a factor of 3. So it really was a tough time, and to be asking for a radio telescope was the wrong time to ask for a radio telescope. But the numbers we were looking for, they're actually quite modest kind of numbers. But the key thing was that to get into the International LOFAR telescope. This was all important, and this is how we financed it. We really needed 2 million to build it. And so we got the consortium with about 400k. We got donations of about 200k. I spent about 5 years doing that. That was very hard-won money. And then about 2 weeks doing that. And it's just amazing. 2 weeks and 2 pages to get that. And so that's how we eventually won the money, to show the commitment of the universities, to show that businesses were supporting us, and then to get the government to be embarrassed into giving us the money almost. We did have to do a lot of politicking at the time. I bought a suit. Here's all of us at the European Parliament. So we went to the European Parliament to raise awareness about this opportunity to become part of a major European project. And there's Renée Vermeulen on the right and myself here on the left. This is some of the local politicians. This is member of European Parliament. She's actually vice president of the European Union at the moment. And they wrote to our government saying how good this project was. So we were constantly putting pressure onto the government on many, many different levels to convince them. And they did respond to this. Of course, it's their idea now. And here she is again from the European Parliament, and here are our ministers, and they wrote a strategy that included LOFAR. And so then the national strategy included a LOFAR station, and then we were able to write a proposal. So once it went into that, they had to respond and they had to build the station. So of course the call was during August in the middle of my holidays. And here is Le Bel-Em in the southwest of France. Here's my hat. And here's the proposal being submitted and asking for 1.4 million euros. And we got the money. So that's how we got there. For us, though, publicity was really important along the way. So as we got this money, we wanted to tell the government and people about why we were doing it, why it was important. And so we brought the media along with us and told the story of our journey plus the science that we were doing. So we ended up getting this guy here. He's actually a professor of astrophysics who has a truck driving license. And so he drove the LOFAR bits and pieces from the Netherlands to Ireland, and BBC made a program called Space Truckers. So if you want to drive your station, call Dr. Milligan. He can drive your truck over. But that raised awareness, and people talked about the station. We also used building the station as a training opportunity for undergraduates and for postgraduates. So this was the advert that I put out, want to build a radio telescope this summer. We had about 50 students who applied to come and build the radio telescope with us. We selected 20 of them, put them into a house together, that was interesting, and got them to build a radio telescope. And with the people from Astron, here they all are. We have people from where do we have? We have people from the US, we have people from Spain, we have people from Romania, we have people from engineering backgrounds, computer science backgrounds, physics backgrounds, who are all working together on the team. So those 20 students that we hired. But at the end of the summer, they built a radio telescope. And quite a number of them are now doing PhDs in different areas. And here they are working. This girl here, she was responsible for laying the cables. She's now doing a PhD with me in LOFAR observations. This guy here, Pierce, is also doing a PhD in solar physics. This guy here is studying jets with LOFAR. This lady here is now doing a postdoc in Finland. And who else can I see up there? Owen is probably up here. He's the next speaker with the wheelbarrow. And so he had to do the most technical of jobs. But after the summer, we had this. Sorry, that's July. That should be 2017. And this is what the station looked like. We were very proud of the station. And it's not only a research facility, it's also tourists come down and see it. And they turn off their phones and they learn about RFI and they learn about the LOFAR station. So it's about 100,000 visitors a year who come through that parkland and they see LOFAR. And they learn that Irish scientists are doing this as part of a European project. And that's a very powerful message that should not be underappreciated. Soon after we turned on, the sun was active. We turned on in July. By September, we had an enormous solar flare on the sun, and wrote our first paper, which is shown here. Owen Carley will talk about this a little bit more, but it resulted in a paper in Nature Astronomy that we were very, very proud of. That gave us a new insight into how electrons are accelerated associated with a coronal mass ejection. We made TV shows about this. Our national broadcaster, RTE, made a documentary about this, 45-minute documentary. I'm happy to share it with you. And we kept the press coming along with us as well. This is Jocelyn Bell Burnell, the discoverer of pulsars, who opened up one of our stations. We were featured in Nature, Sunday Times in the UK, and then national science programs were there with us, telling the public about what we were doing and getting them to be excited about the project. We also built or refurbished a building right beside I-LOFAR and are using that as an education centre. So this is it here. It used to have sheep and cows in it. It now has servers in here, and this is a classroom space, which you can see here, which we can fit about 40 people into, and we'll be running the solar KSP meeting in that building next year. And it's used constantly now by local school kids. Here they are. Here they do everything from art to science. This is a substation, an electrical substation, which was very ugly, but we got them to put pulsar observations and the Milky Way on it as part of an art science project. But it was a way of engaging with the rural community. So if you want to talk to people in rural areas, your telescope has to be in a rural area, and that's a great way of talking to people in rural communities and getting them interested in science and engineering, and that's what we did with it. The I-LOFAR station also opened up a lot of new funding opportunities for us as well. Almost immediately we became part of an advanced community called RadioNet, and we also had an ERC Advanced grant awarded. It was actually turned down 2 years previously, and one of the comments was, you're looking for LOFAR data, but you're not members of the International LOFAR Telescope. And then he's resubmitted it and won it, but we had a LOFAR station at that point. So it was very important for us to have that. Owen will talk about LOFAR for space weather, and then there's lots of other bits and pieces that we've been doing as well here with Bulgaria. It's also opened up new things that I didn't expect. We were approached by a company who works in finance. They work on high-frequency trading, but they have lots of physicists and astrophysicists working in their teams doing writing software. And they wanted to test their software on a really fast data source. And so we are in the process of plugging in their data, or their software, to try and see if we can learn something about our data. And so we have physics and finance showing that connection. The only problem is they'll probably hire all of my staff because they pay maybe a factor of 3 more than we do. But it's a very interesting new development. The local government we worked with constantly through the project. This is a building that they had refurbished. There are some companies in here, small companies, but we now have a suite, an office suite, maybe about the size of this room. But the idea is that our scientists can spend time there and business people can spend time there. And we all have common problems around data analysis, data visualization. And so we have funding for this project called STREAM. It's based in that building. So that's an interesting aspect to look at, the kind of commercial aspect of the kind of research that we do. So really it's meant to be a regional hub in the middle of Ireland for big data. It's meant to be a place where we can have training projects. We've just started, so we will have training programs there. There's also hot desk space for visiting researchers, and then also for co-working space. So if you have a collaboration between scientists or a collaboration between scientists and engineers, they can come together and work in this. And this is the tagline that they use: big bang to big data to big business. And the arrows go in both directions, because we don't want to just provide them with things, we want to learn from them as well. So it should be a conversation rather than a IP one-way discussion. Okay, so I'll just finish up there on my last slide, and I think LOFAR for us, I hope you can see, it was much more than just a research project. We used it as a way of training and engaging with students who went on to do PhDs. We've used it as a way to open up a new conversation with government so that they better appreciate what astronomy is. Astronomy is great research, but it also is great technology as well, and it is great PR as well. It's a great way of enthusing people in science, and also in internationalizing your science, and that was another important aspect for our government. And the papers are now beginning to flow, and Owen Carley, who's a research fellow at DIAS, will tell you a little bit more about that science in the next talk. So thank you very much.